That initial call is frankly terrifying. Making that first call to the funeral director, last person in the world you want to have to need for services, obviously. The idea was we would embed Grace into our Contact Us feature of our website. The grieving consumer would type in their information, and right now the model is designed for Grace to call them.
I've certainly have shared it with probably over 50 plus people, and when they get on the call, they are blown away by her level of empathy and her humanistic experience. Welcome to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. If you ever asked, how do I protect myself and those I love if something unexpected happened to me? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Niki Weiss, and together we'll explore how to protect yourself in a world where both your physical and digital legacy leave a lasting impact. And welcome back to another episode of the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. And today, my guest is Matt Grieco. Matt, you and I, we've known each other well over a year now, and I came to you as I was rolling out my Final Playbook concept, and you are a local funeral director in my area. In the last year, I've been doing some exciting stuff. So let me introduce you as the progressive funeral director, Matt Grieco.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, well, I like the term progressive. I feel like I am. Longtime funeral director, now about 30 years, and been in and out of partnerships and multi-firm location ownership, etc. And today I own two firms, as you said, one in Quakertown near you, and in my hometown in Kennett Square. Been through a lot of phases of my career, and I love what I do.
And how have you seen the funeral industry change over the last 30 years?
Well, I guess for one thing, I kind of have been able to redefine the term funeral director throughout my career. You know, if you look at the history of the term, it started as undertaker, to undertake the transfer of the deceased from the battlefield and Civil War era to their hometown, to so mortician, and then funeral director, more current, more recent. And I like to say these days that I'm more of an event planner, I guess you could say, because it's a special event, it's a unique event. And I think that's one of the biggest changes is there's no cookie cutter funerals anymore. It's not always a casket. In fact, that's only 30% of the time that it's a casket. So now more of the time it's an urn, maybe a picture, and people want more of a life celebration at a venue that's personal to them, with maybe a glass of wine in hand, where we hear maybe a celebrant. I'm a certified celebrant. I have staff's celebrants. And so the event, the funeral ceremony, looks much different than it did even 10 years ago.
A celebrant, that's a term that a lot of people might not be familiar with. What's the difference between, I guess, a celebrant versus
a minister?
Is it a minister? I mean, look, I've been to a lot of Jewish funerals, and it's always the rabbi or the cantor that performs, that officiates, right? So is a celebrant just a different type of officiant?
Yeah. I think it's still an officiant, but it's one that is sharing more of the person's life story, as we like to say. So much less on the religion side and more about the content of a person's life. And I always say that a good funeral is really about what's said. It's the spoken word during that time where we're paused, we're reflecting on a life well lived, where we laugh, where we cry, we remember the story of the person's life. Religion, more and more folks are now feeling like religion is good for Sunday, but maybe not for their funeral event.
It's fascinating. And has that been a big transition, or in the last, since
it really
COVID?
has,
I think it's COVID, right?
Well, even before COVID, but probably since COVID even more so. Frankly, I would say of those deciding to engage us for a ceremony, right? They could do their own thing on their own. But most will say, yeah, we like the idea of you conducting our event. And so I would say those that opt for the celebrant versus a minister is probably 3-1. So probably mostly celebrant-led funerals are the norm for my firm.
Well, I could see how less people are part of a religious community. So then when an event does happen, who do they reach out to be that officiant? And so now the funeral homes are offering this as a service.
I think the progressive firms are correct. Yeah,
Well,
we
talk to
certainly.
us. What makes you such the progressive funeral director?
Well, so that's just one piece of my progressiveness, I guess you could say. And we've had Celebrants now for 15 years plus, and that really is probably the most relevant thing I've done as a funeral director over my career is becoming a celebrant. It really is the most relevant piece. But technology has certainly been something that we have been adopted, have been quick to observe, and from our software, Passari is the software we use, a very well liked industry software. I know the principals of that company very well.
And what does
From
Passari, I'm sorry, so Passari is the name of a company, and what
right.
kind of software services do they provide the funeral
Well,
industry?
among many segments of their company, the one that we utilize the most is their case management software. So when someone passes, obviously we're entering that data immediately into our software. We utilize it to communicate with the family. We can send them a link so they can log in and enter data about their loved one in advance of a meeting with us in person. People like to do things on their own now, so we want to make sure we're meeting people where they are. And so this software allows us to do that and thousands of other items because it's so well designed to integrate with insurance assignments to videos to you name it, obituary writing. We have AI now utilized within the software as well, for example.
I mean, this is like a real, like, as a project manager, I'm hearing like this is a process. There's a lot of pieces that need to be coordinated and managed, and milestones and deliverables. And is this like a new skill set that funeral directors need, to be
Well,
developing?
I think they do, and ironically, no offense to my profession or other funeral homes out there, but let's face it, we're an old school profession. We're very rooted in tradition, and I think a lot of the funeral director owners and staff across the country might have software like this, but not utilize it to its full extent. So it's kind of a shame if they were to do that. I think they would have more time to be with their client families, less on the computer because the computer is doing the work for them. So certainly where I think we're progressive. My sister is my business manager. She is always on top of new trends within that software, for example. But I would say also, and you probably want to hear that, other areas we're utilizing technology would be webcasting, video slideshows, and when you hear those terms like, oh, well, of course everybody's doing that, but we're always on top of that in and of themselves as well, making sure as they develop and get better that we're getting better too. Obituary writing, as I said, through AI. So those are other areas of technology within my business that are very relevant, and we're always on top of it. Even my phone system now is of course, voice over IP, which maybe is now outdated in of itself, but there really isn't any piece of our business where we aren't aware of the potential technology solutions to help us be more effective and exact and precise.
Well, it's interesting, even how your customers are engaging with you has changed over the last couple years. Where it used to be, again, that old, the funeral home was very local, was very much embedded as part of the community. And now people are kind of shopping around. Am I right to say that? On,
Yeah, well,
pricing and services?
there's less loyalty. Yeah, yeah, not to interrupt you, but yeah, there's less loyalty. And most funeral homes across the country know this, that it used to be you always went to the mom and pop up the street. Well, that mom and pop maybe has changed, maybe isn't there anymore. The next generation doesn't have a relationship with their local funeral director, maybe. Maybe they don't even understand what a funeral home does, sadly. The younger generations really don't. So the loyalty, we become, sadly, at times, a kind of a commodity. And so folks want to figure it out on their own. They're probably online to figure out, who they're gonna choose. So we have to be very aware of our online presence.
And so instead of people calling you on the phone or walking in your doors, how are they
Yeah.
reaching out to you?
Right. So that's the biggest probably phenomena that I've seen, especially since COVID, is that before COVID, we weren't isolated in our homes. We weren't being trained, as COVID did to us, to figure it out on our own at home with a computer. COVID did that, and so since then, there has certainly been an uptick with folks going online through, for example, the contact us feature of our website, sending emails at all hours of the day, and at times to report a passing of someone, even a sudden passing, one where you would think they just pick up the phone, the traditional vehicle, to contact your funeral director. Well, they're not doing that, and they're understandably, like any product or service, people are going online to get their information. The problem with that is we are an industry or profession where we want to respond quickly because we're trained to do that. And there's a number of reasons why we should be responding quickly to a person's needs during grief. And if they go online and we get an email 12 hours later, there's a real disconnect for us to really help them.
I mean, it's a 24/7 business.
That's right.
So how, as in the old days, how did they do it? Or maybe the volume wasn't there?
Well, so it's actually a very good point. So that's the other evolution of my career. In 30 years doing this, we started with, and I'm actually new compared to the industry as a whole, of course. It's a 200-year profession, the current model, or the traditional model. Funeral directors initially would sit literally or have a staff person sitting by the phone 24/7 in the funeral home. So it was either that, and then we merged to pagers, of course. And when I got in the profession in the 90s, had a pager. And that was the way I was contacted. It would say 911, that means someone's passed. And then, of course, cell phones came available, and now we are here today. And even those items have become obsolete in some level.
So as the progressive funeral director, what's the next
Surprised
doorway
you
we're
asked.
stepping into?
So surprised you asked, Nikki. So then you and I, as you articulated earlier, met about a year ago, and then about 9 months ago or so, learned through another gentleman this invention of AI chatbots and agents. And so you and I and our partner Aaron have been working on this ever since, and we're proud to have created Grace.
Evergrace.
Evergrace is our company. And we call the agent Grace for now. That could change within our customer portfolio. But so the reason that came about, you guys aptly asked me right away, hey, what's your pain point? And I articulated, this phenomena of folks not wanting to talk to the owner or funeral director just yet. And so the idea was we would embed Grace into our Contact Us feature of our website, which we've done very effectively. We made a chat bot, and so now the consumer, the grieving consumer, would type in their information, and right now the model is designed for Grace to call them, and so to see if they need more information, to make sure they understand the sense of urgency, to answer virtually any question under the sun related to end-of-life services.
Voice activation. I mean, I would say I've probably shared, I don't know how many people you've shared this with, but I've certainly have shared it with probably over 50 plus people. And when they get on the call, again, we say chatbot, but it's actually a voice activation. And when they get on, they are blown away by her level of empathy and her humanistic experience. That she not just remembers my name, but she can remember what I've said in the past. And I had an experience where I was very melodramatic with Evergrace on the phone, and she picked up on my panicked voice and said to me, "One moment, and let me connect you to a human who will be able to assist you." So the fact that she's able to pivot and hear what I'm saying, I have to say, I've worked with some call centers, like with real humans, and I didn't get that kind of experience, that kind of positive experience. It's been a little wonkier with some humans than it has been actually with this AI experience.
Yeah, fair enough. And, I think the more you and I have worked together, we've discovered that, the topic of death, it really is so emotional that we as call takers, human call takers, get tied in, can get sidetracked by any number of emotions and questions that a caller has for us in that first call. We call it the first call. And so Grace that we've created, is able to navigate that a lot more smoothly. And so that's been one of the nice surprises of an AI agent is, all the things you just articulated, the amount of data they can collect without even responding, and they never miss a beat. They're empathetic. They're not fazed by the caller's emotion, etc. However, they can detect that emotion, and we've continued to demonstrate that Grace, in any situation that she can't handle, will call me, the director on call, for at least at my firm. And we also have it designed where it can call our answering service, which still exists, and we have a great partnership with our current answering service as well. So, to be clear, it's Grace is not replacing us humans or our answering service. It's really just another tool, to help us navigate, because, as you said, death is 24/7, and we humans are in the middle of things, as humans are at all times. So this is a real insurance policy, I see it, for my firm, to help navigate folks at every second of the day.
What I love about Evergrace is that there's a level of consistency, there's a lack of biasy, and more importantly, that she's not distracted. So when it comes to like doing the due diligence on gathering the information, being able to create a workflow from a business standpoint, right? Because we want to be paying attention to the person on the other side, because they're in emotional distress. Whether they're calling because they're just pre-planning and they want to be proactive, or they're calling because there's an imminent death that is about to occur, or the third situation, which is that the death has occurred and a pickup is needed. She can pivot seamlessly,
Right.
no matter what this caller is saying.
That's right. Yeah, and so of our 4 or 5 months of really having her active on my website, and all the test runs we've had with friends from near and far that I've had demo her, if you will, the way she navigates any type of humor, emotion, bizarre questions, thoughts, as questions are when someone passes. There's really a ton of unique questions that people ask. She doesn't flinch, and that's been the compelling, you know, pitch of Grace to me.
And we also were able to implement Spanish. So if
Oh,
someone called and all of a sudden just flipped from English to Spanish, she just picks up on it and responds back in Spanish.
yeah, yeah. You have to be determined how many languages we'll have her navigate, but it seems kind of endless. So, yeah, no, Grace has been just an exciting project for us, as you would agree, and clearly AI is not going away, nor are agents, and yeah, we'll continue to help train our community, frankly, to understand that this is an effective way of communicating with us, and not to be scared of it. So.
Not just not be scared, but it's and we're not just not to be scared, but also to embrace it in a way that this is going to make the process more efficient. It's going to allow the families to get through the hard questions that there's a lot of decisions that need to be
The
made.
initial process, right? Yeah, because that initial call is frankly terrifying. I mean, frankly, people have told me all the time, making that first call to the funeral director, last person in the world you want to have to need for services, obviously. And so if we can make that first call, more healing, if you will, and reaffirming, and when they hang up with Grace, they should be confident that they're in good hands. The task will be handled carefully,
Professionally.
professionally, in an exact way, right? So, and then the live funeral director, the owner of the funeral home, is just a step away. The transcripts and the recording of the call and everything that comes to us right after Grace has had that conversation has been very effective and reaffirming for me as a funeral home owner, that my partner Grace is doing her job effectively.
Not just that you're not missing any details or information in order to best service your families.
That's right. That's right.
So what are some questions if I called up Grace? I would have loved to have demoed Grace, but
Yeah.
we want to make sure that this conversation moves smoothly, so we decided not to.
Yeah.
But if anybody called up, like, how would I know that? So if I called up Grace, Evergrace, with this funeral home, how would I know that it was an AI agent and not a human?
Well, we've been very careful to program Grace to be full disclosure, and while that's a work in progress, and we'll certainly continue to program her, adapt her to the firm in question that's utilizing her, or the region. There are differences between one town to the next, but we're all about full disclosure. So in the first few seconds, Grace is going to say, "Hi, I'm the AI agent for Grieco Funeral Home," and we may tweak that wording a little bit as we continue to evolve with her. So, but we're making it very clear that she is here to take initial intake information about the decedent, where the location is, etc., next of kin, all the particulars that we would normally receive, but also be available for questions that might be very random or unique to their wishes around death. Right? She has a repertoire that is amazing.
So, what are some of the topics? Can she talk to me about pricing?
She could. Usually, we're going to give a range of pricing, though. So, Grace will know that yes, the funeral home by law, FTC law, has a general price list, but we're going to, at this time, not have her go into great detail. But we're going to disclose, yes, we have a general price list that the funeral director, as a follow-up, will offer that to them. And instead, for now, she's going to give a range of fees, which is the FTC rule, is we can give a range of fees and we can answer specific items about the general price list. And that's going to be continued to be developed. So a range of fees with the support of an email from the funeral director articulating specifics right after the call. But she can also talk about green burial, celebrants, any number of topics that are obviously already on our website, but to be able to articulate those things verbally to the consumer over the phone is important too.
And because it's artificial intelligence, it's only going to get better, right? I mean, each
That's right.
conversation, she's learning. She's learning
That's
and
right.
how to service our customers better and making sure that the conversation flows as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, at the same time, it's reassuring for you and me to know that our partners and the folks behind the scenes have guardrails, I'll call them, on Grace as well. That we have very specific parameters on the topics that she can talk about, and it's really all around end of life services, the psychology of death, etc. You know, as an example, at the end of a call recently when we were demonstrating Grace to some friends, we said, listen. You've been great, Grace. Would you mind singing Amazing Grace to us? I just came randomly to my one buddy, and we were blown away that Grace basically said, Matthew, I can't sing Amazing Grace, like I'm not a vocalist, but I know the words, and I'm going to recite them to you now.
Oh my gosh.
And she started reciting the verses of Amazing Grace. And we asked our partners about this, how does she have that knowledge base? And it's because she has the ability to go to the internet, but only for specific items around end of life. So that was reassuring to me that the guardrails are in place because AI can go off on its own if it's not carefully monitored, which our company does very well to monitor her.
That's on our back end. All right. So how and when did you come up with the name, or your team come up with the name Grace?
Good question. So my sister, I have an amazing team. I have 7 employees within my 2 funeral home companies. They're all my right-hand men and ladies to help us take care of families perfectly, frankly. And so my sister is my business manager, Susan Grieco, and I put it out to the company. Hey, we need a name for this AI agent, and it's got to be the right name. This is the funeral profession. My sister, without hesitation, came up with Grace.
And when was that?
That was 5-6 months ago.
I mean, well, it's August, so we're
Yeah,
saying
that was
like the beginning of the year, right? Around
beginning of the
February,
year.
February 2025.
Exactly.
And what was it about the name that she just felt fit?
Well, so if you look at the term grace, right, and you think of our profession, give them grace, right? I say often, give this family grace to grieve. So that's one application of the word grace within my space. Saving grace, amazing grace. I mean, it just really became the term that really epitomizes, or a name that epitomizes funeral service to Susie, and then we quickly all agreed.
So do you think your clients, calling up your services now and meeting Grace, is it going to be a comfortable experience or a little weird at first?
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen, but I think we know in every other sector, AI agents are popping up, and so why not ours? Ours, takes maybe a bit more sensitivity in how we create her, develop her, roll her out, but as long as she has the guardrails and the training of people like myself, I'm a 30-year veteran, we're going to be very careful about what she says or doesn't say. And I think, my friends and family that have been embracing her so far have been it's been very compelling.
And intergenerational too, right? So it's.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it's a good question. I remember telling you that one night, it was like around Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving, that would be last year, but probably Easter. we did a demonstration for my family, and I had my 19-year-old son, my 23-year-old daughter, and then my 75-year-old stepfather. And the reactions, while different, were all consistently surprising, right? They were wowed by it. They could not believe what they were hearing. And that's the typical comment when anybody listens to Grace, is that her conversational ability, her accuracy, the way she pivots, she doesn't get distracted, as you said. So the level of accuracy is absolutely amazing, something I don't think most humans have heard yet. And so I think we have something unique, and it's great for our profession.
So as the progressive funeral director, now a death tech innovator.
Death tech, that's a term I'm still getting used to.
Death tech, we also call it Thanatech.
Right.
It's a term that lots of solutions are out there.
Yeah.
And Evergrace is just one that could be leading the way, especially in the funeral industry. Do you have a crystal ball, Matt? What do you think is in store for the funeral space regarding technology? Regarding technology. And the reason I was hesitating is if I think about all of the verticals, the most human experience anybody is going to go through is death.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say from a lowest common denominator, the funeral industry is probably the lowest common denominator when it comes to adopting technology. So the fact that they're starting to, with these, using AI to write obituaries, these telecasts of services, and now we're introducing an AI agent into the call center. Like, where do you think we're heading?
Well, I think slow but sure, I will say, very carefully, because it is such a humanistic experience. I've talked to people for the last several years as AI and technology has been taking hold. What about us? How is it going to affect our profession? And I think we all agree that it's a tool, it's a partner, if you will, but at the end of the day, you can't replace the compassion, the literally the warmth, and the human sentiment that literally exists with a human. And so I don't expect technology or AI to replace me anytime soon. But certainly, the big piece of Grace, Evergrace, is to help with the 24/7-ness of my role. I'm frankly exhausted some weeks, so I think that's where AI is effective in the funeral profession, is a tool to give us grace, frankly, to do the work that we are trained to do, that we're passionate about doing, that I am rested, that I am empathetic and hearing my consumer, my client family, because Grace and AI and technology have assisted me in the back end. So I think that's kind of my answer to your question.
And with that, thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. How can people get a hold of you? How can best way to find you?
Yeah, I'm all over the internet. I've been doing this for 30 years, so just Google Matt Grieco. You're going to find me. But Facebook, email. My email is mgrieco@griecofunerals.com. We're setting up a separate company, as you know. We have a separate company for Evergrace, and we'll have communication mediums there or LinkedIn. So while we're new, we are chipping away at a lot of aspects of our business. But me personally, I'm always available 24/7 through the internet.
And with that, we'll end here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Niki.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. I hope this conversation inspired you to take control and plan for the inevitable to protect yourself and those you leave behind. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at digitallegacypodcast.com. Remember, life is full of surprises. What happens after you die shouldn't be. So keep your passwords safe and your playbook up to date.